The stars shimmered like tiny diamonds scattered across an endless black canvas. On the bridge of the Odyssey, Captain Ryan Carter stood with his hands clasped behind his back, staring out at the vast expanse of space. The ship hummed softly around him, its systems running smoothly under the watchful eyes of his crew. It was a quiet moment in what had been a long and exhausting tour of duty. Epsilon 7, the colony world they were stationed near, floated in the distance. A small but thriving settlement, it was one of many human outposts scattered across the galaxy. For years, these colonies had struggled to survive on their own, relying on supplies and support from Earth. But lately, tensions between Earth and its far-flung colonies had grown sharper, fueled by unequal resource distribution and growing political unrest. Ryan could feel the strain every time he spoke with colonial leaders or read reports about shortages and protests. Today, however, there was no time for reflection. An urgent message from the Interstellar Council had just come through. The KRYNN, a hostile alien race known for their brutal tactics, were advancing toward New Haven, another colony located near Epsilon 7. Intelligence suggested that the KRYNN intended to seize control of the region, using it as a base to launch further attacks against humanity. The situation was dire, and the colonists were pleading for help. Ryan turned to face Lieutenant Emily Dawson, who sat at her station monitoring communications. Her dark hair was tied back neatly, and her sharp green eyes scanned the data streaming across her screen. "What's the status?" he asked, his voice calm but firm. "The KRYNN fleet is moving fast," Emily replied without looking up. "They'll reach New Haven within 24 hours if we don't stop them." Commander Daniel Hayes, Ryan's second-in-command, stepped forward. His tall frame and steady demeanor made him a natural leader, and his experience in combat was unmatched. "We have to act now," Daniel said. "If we wait any longer, those people won't stand a chance." Ryan nodded, already formulating a plan. He trusted Daniel implicitly, and Emily's technical expertise was invaluable. Together, they formed the core of his command team, a trio that had faced countless challenges over the years. But this time felt different. Something about the urgency of the message from the Council gnawed at him, though he couldn't quite put his finger on why. Just then, the communication panel lit up with an incoming transmission. Ryan recognized the emblem immediately. It was from the Interstellar Council. With a deep breath, he activated the link, and the stern face of Council Laura Bennett appeared on the main view screen. She was a striking woman in her 50s, with sharp features and piercing blue eyes that seemed to bore into whoever she addressed. Her expression was unreadable, but Ryan knew better than to underestimate her. "Captain Carter," she began, her tone clipped and formal. "You are hereby ordered to stand down and avoid engaging the KRYNN forces. Reinforcements will arrive shortly to handle the situation." Ryan frowned, confusion washing over him. "Stand down? Counselor, with all due respect, my fleet is the closest asset to New Haven. If we don't intervene—" "That's not your concern," Bennett interrupted sharply. "Your orders are clear. Do not engage. Is that understood?" The room fell silent. Ryan exchanged glances with Daniel and Emily, both of whom looked equally bewildered. Standing down meant abandoning the colonists to their fate. It wasn't just cowardly, it was unconscionable. Yet disobeying a direct order from the Council carried severe consequences. "Yes, Counselor," Ryan said finally, his jaw tightening. "Understood." As soon as the transmission ended, Daniel slammed his fist against the wall in frustration. "This is insane. We're letting innocent people die because of some bureaucratic power play." Emily shook her head, her fingers flying over her console as she pulled up additional data. "There's more to this than meets the eye. Why would the Council order us to stand down when they know how dangerous the KRYNN are?" Ryan didn't answer right away. Instead, he walked over to the viewport, his mind racing. He had always believed in the ideals of the Interstellar Council, the promise of unity and cooperation among humans and aliens alike. But recent events had planted seeds of doubt in his mind. Resource shortages, favoritism toward certain colonies, and increasing authoritarian measures had left many questioning the Council's true motives. Hours passed agonizingly slowly as the crew monitored the KRYNN fleet's approach. Despite the Council's orders, Ryan couldn't bring himself to do nothing. He instructed Emily to keep tracking the enemy movements while Daniel prepared contingency plans in case intervention became unavoidable. Every fiber of his being screamed to take action, but discipline held him back, for now. When the inevitable happened, it hit hard. The KRYNN launched their assault on New Haven with devastating efficiency. Without reinforcements, the colony's defenses crumbled within hours. Images of burning cities and fleeing civilians filled the screens on the Odyssey's bridge, each frame a punch to the gut. Ryan clenched his fist so tightly that his knuckles turned white. He wanted to scream, to rage against the injustice of it all, but he forced himself to remain composed. After the battle ended, Ryan received another summons from Council headquarters on Earth. This time, he wasn't given a choice. He was ordered to return immediately for debriefing. As the Odyssey set course for Earth, Ryan couldn't shake the feeling that he was walking into a trap. Upon arrival, Ryan was escorted to a sterile conference room where Counselor Bennett awaited him. Her expression was colder than ever, and her body language radiated authority. She wasted no time getting to the point. "Captain Carter," she said, leaning forward slightly. "Explain yourself." Ryan blinked, caught off guard. "Explain myself? I followed your orders to the letter." "And yet you allowed New Haven to fall." Bennett shot back, her voice dripping with accusation. "Was that part of your plan?" "My plan?" Ryan repeated incredulously. "With respect, Counselor, you're the one who ordered me to stand down. You tied my hands." Bennett's lips pressed into a thin line. For a moment, she looked almost guilty, but only for a moment. Then her mask of indifference slipped back into place. "Sometimes sacrifices must be made for the greater good," she said flatly. "The outer colonies have become too independent, too defiant. Letting New Haven fall sends a message." Ryan stared at her, disbelief giving way to anger. "So that's it? You let billions of lives hang in the balance just to make a point." Bennett rose from her seat, towering over him. "What's your tone, Captain? You do well to remember who you're speaking to." But Ryan wasn't intimidated. "And you do well to remember who you're supposed to serve," he shot back. "This isn't leadership, it's tyranny." For the briefest second, something flickered in Bennett's eyes. Surprise, perhaps, or even fear. But before Ryan could press further, the door slid open, and two armed guards entered the room. They flanked him silently, their presence a clear warning. "You've said enough," Bennett declared. "Return to your ship and await further instructions." As Ryan was led out of the room, his mind raced. What had he stumbled into? The Council's actions went beyond negligence. They were calculated, deliberate. And Weiss, he had a sinking suspicion that this wasn't the end of it. Back aboard the Odyssey, Ryan found himself replaying the conversation over and over in his head. Something wasn't adding up. Why would the Council sacrifice an entire colony just to send a message? And what did they hope to gain from such a drastic move? His thoughts were interrupted when Emily approached him with a concerned look. "Say, I overheard something while we were docked," she said quietly. "It's classified, but I think you need to hear it." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "Go on." "There's talk about targeting the homeworld," Emily whispered. "Earth plans to use experimental weapons against Elysium Prime if the colonies continue resisting." Ryan felt his blood run cold. Elysium Prime was the largest and most influential of the outer colonies, a symbol of independence and resilience. Attacking it would be catastrophic, not just for the colonists but for humanity as a whole. "Are you sure about this?" Ryan asked, though he already knew the answer. Emily nodded grimly. "I'm afraid so." For a long moment, Ryan simply stood there, processing the enormity of what he had just learned. The Council's betrayal ran deeper than he had imagined, and the stakes were higher than ever. He realized then that he couldn't stay silent, not anymore. Turning to Emily, he said firmly, "We need to gather evidence, everything we can find, and we need allies. If the Council thinks they can get away with this, they are wrong." Emily hesitated, then nodded. "What's the plan, sir?" Ryan took a deep breath, steeling himself for what lay ahead. "We expose the truth, and we fight back." The weight of the decision pressed heavily on Ryan's shoulders as he paced the confines of his quarters aboard the Odyssey. The ship hummed softly around him, a constant reminder of the lives that depended on his leadership. He couldn't shake the image of New Haven burning or the cold indifference in Counselor Bennett's eyes. The Council had betrayed humanity, not just the colonies, but everyone who believed in the ideals Earth once stood for. And now, with rumors of an attack on Elysium Prime, the stakes were higher than ever. Ryan knew he couldn't do this alone. He needed people he could trust, people willing to risk everything to expose the truth. First on his list was Lieutenant Emily Dawson. She had already proven her loyalty by uncovering the classified information about the Council's plans. Her technical expertise would be crucial in gathering more evidence and ensuring their operation stayed hidden from prying eyes. Next was Commander Daniel Hayes. A man of integrity and courage, Daniel had been at Ryan's side through countless battles. His tactical mind and unwavering sense of justice made him indispensable. Together, they formed a strong core, but they needed more if they were going to stand against the might of the Council. Ryan called them both to his quarters late that night. The dim lighting cast long shadows across the walls, giving the room an air of secrecy. Emily sat stiffly in a chair, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, while Daniel leaned against the wall, arms crossed. Both looked tense, their expressions mirroring the gravity of the situation. "We have a problem," Ryan began, cutting straight to the point. "The Council isn't just letting colonies fall. They're planning something far worse. If we don't stop them, they'll destroy Elysium Prime." Emily swallowed hard. "Are you sure about this, sir?" "I wish I wasn't," Ryan admitted. "But the pieces fit. They've been tightening their grip on the colony for years, and now they're ready to make an example out of Elysium. We can't let that happen." Daniel pushed off the wall, his voice firm. "Then we fight. What do you need us to do?" Ryan nodded, grateful for their support. "First, we gather proof. The Council won't admit to anything without concrete evidence. Emily, I need you to dig deeper into their communications. Find anything that links them to the attack on New Haven or the planned strike on Elysium Prime. Be careful. Anything suspicious will draw attention." Emily nodded, determination replacing the fear in her eyes. "I'll get started right away." "Good," Ryan said. "And Daniel, I need you to start reaching out to other ships in the fleet. There are officers out there who feel the same way we do, people who know something is wrong. We need allies, but we can't afford to trust just anyone. Test the waters carefully." Daniel gave a curt nod. "Consider it done." With their tasks assigned, Ryan dismissed them, though he knew sleep wouldn't come easily. The hours stretched long as he waited for updates, his mind racing with possibilities. Every second counted, and the thought of failure weighed heavily on him. Days turned into weeks as Emily worked tirelessly in the ship's data hub. She sifted through encrypted transmissions, piecing together fragments of conversations that painted a chilling picture. The Council wasn't just planning an attack. They were preparing to use experimental weapons capable of wiping out entire populations. It was monstrous, even by the standards of war. Meanwhile, Daniel reached out to trusted contact within the fleet. One name kept coming up, Captain Julia Morales. Known for her fierce independence and unshakable moral compass, Julia commanded the cruiser Vanguard, a veteran of numerous conflicts. When Daniel finally managed to speak with her, she didn't hesitate to share her disgust with the Council's recent decisions. "They ordered my ship to fire on unarmed civilians during a supply dispute," Julia told him over a secure channel. Her voice was tight with anger. "I refused, of course, but they've been watching me ever since. If what you're saying is true, if they are planning to attack Elysium, we can't let them get away with it." Daniel explained their plan, and Julia agreed to meet with Ryan Discreet safely. It was a risky move, but having someone like Julia on their side could tip the scales in their favor. When Julia arrived aboard the Odyssey, Ryan greeted her in the briefing room. She was shorter than he expected, with sharp features and piercing brown eyes that seemed to see right through him. Her presence was commanding, and Ryan immediately understood why her crew followed her so loyally. "This is quite the mess you've gotten yourself into," Julia said after hearing the details of her investigation. "But I'm with you. Count the Vanguard in." Her support was a relief, but Ryan knew they still had a long way to go. The Council's reach was vast, and exposing their plans wouldn't be easy. They needed irrefutable proof, something undeniable enough to sway public opinion and fracture the Council's control. Emily eventually struck gold. Buried deep within layers of encryption, she found a recording of a private meeting between several high-ranking Council members. In it, they discussed the logistics of deploying the experimental weapons against Elysium Prime. The audio was grainy, but the implications were clear. "This is it," Emily said, her voice trembling with excitement as she played the recording for Ryan and Daniel. "This proves everything." Ryan listened intently, his heart pounding. It was damning evidence, but broadcasting it would require precision timing. If they acted too soon, the Council might silence them before the message reached the public. Too late, and Elysium Prime could already be under attack. "We need to spread this carefully," Ryan said once the recording ended. "Start small. Get it to key figures in the fleet first. Build momentum before taking it public." Julian nodded. "I know a few captains who won't hesitate to join us. Once they hear this, they'll act." As word began to spread, tensions aboard the Loyalist ships grew palpable. Whispers of dissent rippled through the ranks, and some officers openly questioned the Council's motives. Not everyone was convinced, though many remained loyal to Earth, either out of fear or blind faith in the system. Back on Earth, Counselor Bennett became increasingly uneasy. Reports of unrest among the fleet reached her desk daily, and she couldn't ignore the growing threat. She ordered surveillance on Ryan and his closest allies, determined to stamp out the rebellion before it gained traction. But Ryan was prepared. Using a combination of decoy transmissions and false leads, he kept the Council guessing, buying precious time for his team to solidify their position. The stakes were life and death, and every decision carried consequences. One evening, as Ryan reviewed the latest updates with Daniel and Emily, a sudden alert flashed across the main screen. A patrol ship had intercepted a transmission from one of their allies, a captain who had been careless in sharing the evidence. The Council now knew someone was working against them. "They're on to us," Daniel said grimly. Ryan clenched his fists, his jaw tightening. "Then we move faster. We can't wait any longer." Emily looked up from her console, her expression resolute. "What's the next step?" Ryan took a deep breath, his resolve hardening. "We take the fight to them. It's time to show the galaxy what the Council truly is." The stage was set. Lines were drawn, and the battle for humanity's future loomed on the horizon. With the evidence in hand and allies rallying to their cause, Ryan and his team prepared for the fight of their lives. The Council had underestimated them, and that mistake would cost them dearly. The tension aboard the Odyssey was thick enough to cut with a knife. Ryan Carter stood on the bridge, staring at the star map displayed on the main screen. The fleet loyal to the Council had begun mobilizing, their movements deliberate and calculated. It was only a matter of time before they came for him and his crew. Every second counted, and Ryan knew they couldn't afford to waste any more of it. The evidence Emily had uncovered was damning. Proof that the Council planned to use experimental weapons against Elysium Prime, one of humanity's most vital colonies. But holding on to that evidence wasn't enough. They needed to act quickly, decisively, and without hesitation. Ryan's mind raced as he weighed the risks of their next move. The plan he settled on was dangerous, but it was the only way to ensure the truth reached the galaxy before the Council could silence them forever. "We're going to Mars," Ryan announced during a briefing with his inner circle. Daniel Hayes, Emily Dawson, and Captain Julia Morales listened intently, their expressions a mix of determination and concern. "Mars?" Daniel asked, raising an eyebrow. "What's there?" "A secure data hub," Ryan explained. "It's where the Council stores all its classified communications. If we can infiltrate it, we can download everything. Their plans, their orders, their secrets. We'll have undeniable proof of their betrayal." Julia crossed her arms, her sharp eyes narrowing. "And how do you propose we get in? That place is crawling with guards and automated defenses. Walking in blind would be suicide." Ryan nodded, acknowledging the risk. "We won't walk in blind. Emily, I need you to create a decoy signal, a fake distress call from a damaged freighter near Jupiter. That should draw most of the patrol ships away from Mars long enough for us to slip through." Emily leaned forward, already sketching out ideas on her tablet. "I can do that. But even with fewer ships around, breaking into the data hub won't be easy. We'll need someone on the ground to handle the physical security systems. That's where I come in, Daniel said, stepping forward. His voice was steady, confident. I've led ground missions before. Give me a small team, and I'll get us inside. Ryan looked at each of them, pride swelling in his chest. These were people who trusted him, who believed in the cause even when the odds seemed impossible. He gave a firm nod. Then it's settled. We hit Mars tonight. Hours later, the Odyssey and the Vanguard drifted silently in the shadow of Phobos, one of Mars' moons. The decoy signal had worked perfectly, drawing the majority of the Council's forces far from the planet. Only a skeleton crew remained to guard the data hub, and Ryan intended to exploit that weakness. Daniel led the infiltration team, consisting of himself, Emily, and 4 handpicked Marines. Their shuttle detached from the Odyssey and descended toward the Martian surface under the cover of darkness. The atmosphere outside was thin and cold, the red sand stretching endlessly beneath them. As they approached the landing zone, Daniel activated the ship's cloaking device, rendering them invisible to prying eyes. Once on the ground, the team moved swiftly, sticking to the shadows as they approached the data hub. It was a massive structure, its metallic walls gleaming faintly in the dim light of the distant sun. Automated turrets lined the perimeter, their sensors scanning for intruders. Emily knelt behind a rocky outcrop, pulling up a holographic interface on her wrist console. "I'm disabling the outer defenses," she whispered, her fingers flying over the screen. "But I'll only have a narrow window. Once I open the door, we'll need to move fast." Daniel nodded, gripping his rifle tightly. "Understood. Everyone stay sharp." A soft beep signaled success. The heavy doors slid open just wide enough for the team to slip inside. They moved cautiously down the corridor, their footsteps muffled by the thick carpeting. The interior of the data hub was eerily quiet, the hum of servers filling the air. Emily directed them toward the central chamber, where the most sensitive information was stored. As they reached the room, however, they encountered their first obstacle, 2 armed guards standing watch. Daniel raised a hand, signaling for silence. With a quick motion, he gestured for the Marines to flank the guards while he and Emily prepared to strike. The operation was swift and precise. The mariners subdued the guard without firing a shot, binding them securely before dragging them out of sight. Emily wasted no time accessing the terminal in the center of the room. Her fingers danced across the keyboard as lines of code scrolled across the screen. "This is going to take a few minutes," she muttered, her brow furrowed in concentration. "The encryption is stronger than I expected." Daniel kept watch, his rifle trained on the doorway. "Take your time. Just don't make it too long." Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the facility. Red lights flashed overhead, bathing the room in an ominous glow. Emily cursed under her breath, her hands moving even faster. They must have detected the breach. "We've got company." Captains who had once been undecided now rallied to his side, their crews outraged by the Council's treachery. Some ships defected outright, joining Ryan's growing armada, while others declared neutrality, unwilling to fight against their own kind. On 8th, Counselor Bennett watched the chaos unfold with mounting dread. Her carefully constructed web of control was unraveling before her eyes, and she knew who was responsible. "Find Carter," she ordered her subordinates. "Bring him to me alive if possible, dead if necessary." But Ryan was already several steps ahead. With morale high among his followers, he delivered a stirring message to the fleet, vowing to protect humanity from those who sought to destroy it. "The Council betrayed us," he declared. "They sacrificed billions of lives for their own gain. But we won't let them win. Together, we'll stand against tyranny and forge a new future, one where no one is left behind." His words resonated deeply, igniting a fire within the hearts of those who heard them. The stage was set for a final confrontation, one that would determine the fate of humanity itself. The Council had played its hand, and now it was Ryan's turn to strike back. The galaxy was on the brink of chaos. The evidence Ryan Carter and his team had uncovered painted a grim picture of betrayal, one that left no room for doubt about the Interstellar Council's true intentions. News of the Council's plan to attack Elysium Prime spread like wildfire through the fleet, igniting outrage among soldiers and civilians alike. Some ships openly defected, their captains declaring loyalty to Ryan's cause. Others remained undecided, torn between duty to Earth and the moral imperative to protect humanity. But time was running out. The Council's forces were mobilizing, preparing for a decisive strike against both the rebels and the colonies. Admiral Patricia Holt, a seasoned veteran known for her ruthless efficiency, led the Loyalist fleet. Her flagship, the Dominion, loomed large in every strategic report, its presence a constant reminder of the power Ryan and his allies were up against. Ryan knew they couldn't win this fight alone. He needed to warn Elysium Prime and rally its defenders if they hoped to stand any chance against the impending assault. With the Odyssey and the Vanguard leading the way, the Rebel Armada set course for the colony world. Along the way, Ryan worked tirelessly to prepare his people, not just for battle, but for the long struggle ahead. Elysium Prime was a marvel of human ingenuity, its sprawling city connected by networks of gleaming towers and lush greenery. It was also a symbol of independence, a beacon of hope for colonies yearning to break free from Earth's control. When Ryan's fleet arrived in orbit, Governor Samuel Brooks greeted them with cautious optimism. A tall man with graying hair and a steady gaze, Brooks had spent years fighting to keep Elysium prosperous despite the Council's neglect. Captain Carter, Brooks said as they met aboard the Odyssey, "I've heard rumors, but I never imagined things were this bad." "It's worse than you think," Ryan replied, handing over the decrypted files Emily had retrieved from Mars. "The Council plans to use experimental weapons against your world. They are coming for you, and they won't stop until you're destroyed." Brooks' face darkened as he scanned the documents. "This is monstrous. But what can we do? Our defenses aren't strong enough to hold off an entire fleet." "We'll help," Ryan said firmly. "You won't face this alone." With Brooks' cooperation, Ryan began coordinating defensive strategies. Elysium's military was small compared to the Council forces, but its soldiers were determined. Working alongside local leaders, Daniel devised a plan to fortify key positions around the planet. Mines were laid in orbit, anti-aircraft batteries were reinforced, and civilian shelters were prepared for the worst-case scenario. Meanwhile, Emily focused on retrofitting the rebel ships with new technologies scavenged from captured Loyalist vessels. She worked non-stop in the engineering bay, her hands smudged with grease and her mind racing with ideas. "If we can boost our shields and improve targeting systems, we might actually stand a chance," she told Ryan during one of his visits. "You're doing great work," Ryan said, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We'll need every advantage we can get." As the days passed, tension mounted. Scouts reported sightings of Loyalist ships moving toward Elysium, their numbers growing by the hour. The final battle was inevitable, and everyone knew it. When the Loyalist fleet finally arrived, it did so with overwhelming force. Dozens of warships descended upon Elysium, their engines casting eerie shadows across the planet's surface. Admiral Holt wasted no time issuing an ultimatum: surrender unconditionally or face annihilation. Ryan refused to back down. Through a secure channel, he addressed the Loyalist fleet, appealing directly to the men and women serving under Holt's command. "This isn't about orders or obedience," he said, his voice calm but firm. "This is about doing what's right. The Council betrayed us all. Don't let them drag you into their crimes." His words resonated with some. Several ships broke formation, their captains declaring neutrality or outright joining Ryan's side. But most remained loyal to the Council, unwilling, or too afraid, to question authority. The first wave of attacks came swiftly. Plasma bolts and missiles streaked through space, lighting up the void with bursts of fiery destruction. Ryan commanded the Odyssey from the front lines, directing his smaller fleet to exploit weaknesses in the Loyalist formations. Using hit-and-run tactics, they managed to cripple several enemy ships before retreating to regroup. On the ground, Daniel led a daring assault to disable a superweapon station near Elysium's capital city. The device, capable of leveling entire districts with a single blast, posed a dire threat to civilian populations. Leading a squad of Marines, Daniel infiltrated the facility under heavy fire. Explosions rocked the compound as they fought their way inside, each step forward costing lives. "Keep moving," Daniel shouted, firing his rifle at a group of Loyalist soldiers blocking their path. "We don't have much time." Reaching the control room, Daniel planted explosives around the weapon's core. As the timer ticked down, he radioed back to Ryan. "Mission accomplished. Get ready for the fireworks." Moments later, a massive explosion lit up the horizon, reducing the superweapon to rubble. Cheers erupted among the rebel forces, but there was no time to celebrate. The Loyalists renewed their assault with renewed ferocity, determined to crush the resistance once and for all. Back in orbit, Emily played a crucial role in keeping the fleet operational. Damage reports flooded in from every ship, and she worked miracles to keep them flying. Using spare parts scavenged from damaged vessels, she repaired critical systems and boosted engine performance. Her efforts earned her the admiration of the entire crew. "Emily, you're amazing," Lieutenant Dawson, another engineer, said as they welded a breach in the hull. "How do you stay so calm under pressure?" Emily smiled faintly, though her eyes betrayed her exhaustion. "Because if I don't, none of us will make it out of this alive." As the battle raged on, Ryan realized they couldn't win through sheer force alone. They needed to turn the tide in their favor, and fast. Drawing inspiration from past conflicts, he devised a bold strategy. Using stolen codes from the Mars data hub, he hacked into the Loyalist fleet's command network, creating confusion and sowing distrust among their ranks. "What are you doing?" Julia asked as she watched Ryan input commands into console. "I'm giving them something else to worry about," Ryan replied with a grin. "Let's see how well they fight when they don't know who's in charge." The plan worked better than expected. False orders and conflicting directives caused chaos within the Loyalist fleet, forcing many ships to withdraw temporarily to regroup. Seizing the opportunity, Ryan ordered a full-scale counterattack, pushing the Loyalists back further than anyone thought possible. In the heat of the battle, Ryan faced off against Admiral Holt aboard the Dominion. After disabling the larger ship's engines, he led a boarding party onto the flagship, determined to end the conflict once and for all. The corridors were filled with smoke and debris, the air thick with the smell of burnt metal. Ryan moved cautiously, his weapon raised, until he finally confronted Holt in the command center. "You've made a grave mistake, Captain Carter," Holt said, her voice cold and steely. "You may have won this battle, but you'll never win the war." Ryan stepped closer, meeting her gaze without flinching. "This isn't about winning or losing. It's about protecting humanity from enemies like you." For a moment, Holt hesitated. Then, slowly, she lowered her weapon. "Perhaps you're right," she admitted. "But it's too late for me to change sides now." Ryan nodded, understanding the weight of her decision. "Stand down, Admiral. Let us finish this together." With Holt's surrender, the Loyalist fleet began to retreat, signaling the end of the siege. Exhausted but victorious, Ryan returned to the Odyssey, where his crew awaited him with cheers and applause. The battle for Elysium Prime was over, but the war for humanity's future was far from finished. The choice. Desperation clouded her judgment, and she ordered every available ship to hunt down the rebels. Ryan and his team prepared for the final push. Using intelligence gathered from captured Loyalist officers, they identified key targets on Earth, communication hubs, military installations, and the Council's central headquarters. These locations were heavily fortified, but Ryan devised a multi-pronged attack strategy designed to overwhelm the defenders. "We'll divide our forces," Ryan explained during a briefing. "Julia, take your ships and hit the communication hubs. Without them, the Council won't be able to coordinate their response. Daniel, lead a ground assault on the military base near Geneva. It houses the experimental weapons program. Emily, I need you here on the Odyssey to keep us flying while we engage the main fleet above Earth." Everyone nodded, understanding the gravity of the mission. Failure meant annihilation, but success offered a chance to reshape humanity's future. The rebel armada approached Earth under the cover of darkness, their ships cloaked and silent. As they entered orbit, Julia's squadron broke off, heading toward the communication hubs scattered across the globe. Her pilots executed precision strikes, disabling satellites and severing links between the Council command centers. Chaos erupted on the surface as government scrambled to respond. Meanwhile, Daniel led a team of Marines to the military base housing the experimental weapons. The facility was guarded by elite troops, but Daniel's experience shone through. Using stealth tactics, his team infiltrated the compound undetected, neutralizing guards and planting explosives throughout the complex. Once inside the lab, they discovered blueprints for horrific devices capable of wiping out entire populations. Destroying these plans became their top priority. "Set the charges," Daniel ordered, his voice low. "We're not letting them use these monstrosities ever again." As the explosives detonated, flames engulfed the facility, erasing the Council's darkest secrets. Daniel radioed back to Ryan, his tone grim but satisfied. "Mission complete. Weapons program is toast." Above Earth, Ryan faced the bulk of the Council's remaining fleet. Outnumbered and outgunned, the rebels relied on speed and cunning to survive. Emily worked miracles in the engineering bay, rerouting power to damaged systems and keeping the Odyssey operational despite relentless attacks. Her efforts earned her praise from everyone aboard the ship. "You're incredible, Emily," Ryan said during a brief lull in the fighting. "I don't know how you do it." She gave a tired smile. "Just trying to keep us alive, sir." The tide turned when Ryan's hacking skills came into play once more. Breaking into the Council fleet's network, he disrupted their targeting systems, causing friendly fire incidents among their own ships. Confusion spread through the enemy ranks, giving the rebels a critical edge. Seizing the opportunity, Ryan ordered a full assault on the Council flagship, which orbited high above Earth. With Julia and Daniel's mission successful, all eyes turned to this final confrontation. Leading the charge, Ryan boarded the massive vessel alongside a handpicked team of Marines. Inside the flagship, the air was thick with tension. Ryan and his team fought their way through corridors filled with smoke and debris, taking out guards and disabling automated defenses. Finally, they reached the command center, where Counselor Bennett awaited them. "You're too late, Carter," Bennett sneered, clutching a datapad. "Even if you destroy us, humanity will never forgive you for this betrayal." Ryan stepped forward, his expression hard. "This isn't betrayal, it's salvation. You betrayed humanity long ago, Counselor. Now it's time to pay the price." Before Bennett could react, Ryan confiscated the datapad, revealing detailed record of the Council's crimes. With the evidence secured, he signaled for his team to withdraw. As they escaped the flagship, explosives planted earlier detonated, reducing the vessel to rubble. The fall of the Council's flagship marked the beginning of the end. Across Earth, protests erupted as citizens demanded accountability. Governments distanced themselves from the Council, and calls for reform grew louder. In the aftermath, Ryan addressed the galaxy via secure broadcast. "For too long, we have lived under the shadow of tyranny," he declared. "Today, we stand united, not as subject to the Council, but as free people. Together, we will rebuild and create a future where no one is left behind." Cheers erupted aboard the Odyssey and among the rebel fleet. Though scars remained, hope burned brightly. Humanity had taken its first steps toward a new era, guided by leaders who truly cared for its people. As the stars twinkled beyond the viewport, Ryan allowed himself a rare moment of peace. The road ahead would be difficult, but for the first time in years, he felt hopeful. The galaxy was changing, and it was changing for the better.